So we find ourselves in the dimension of the fifth skanda. Nos encontramos en la dimensión de la quinta skanda. And this is the place where our dream world has become complete. Es el lugar en lo cual el mundo de sueño de nuestra creación se ha cumplido. Within this domain, within the domain of consciousness, there are six realms dentro del dominio de la conciencia. Hay seis reinos. Write this down. Six realms. Underline. And these six realms are the six flavors, the six distinct flavors of the amalgam of the five skandhas. Esos dominios son los seis sabores distintos de la mezcla de los cinco skandhas. The consciousness of the separate self manifests in six different ways. Okay? La conciencia del yo falso se manifiesta seis formas distintas. One, write this down, the God realm. Uno, escribimos. El reino de los dioses, the God realm. And in the God realm, everything goes our way. En el reino de los dioses, todo va como nosotros queremos. Everything goes great outside of us. Everything feels great inside of us, right? Life is hunky-dory. There's no need to meditate because there's not really any suffering. En ese lugar, todo va según como nosotros queremos, al nivel exterior, al nivel interior. No hay necesidad de meditar porque casi, casi no hay sufrimiento. And the primary emotion of a being dwelling in the God realm, the primary feeling is pride. La emoción dominante en el reino de los dioses es orgullo, but it's the pride of everything goes my way. It's a particular flavor of pride. ¿Vale? Es el orgullo de que todo va como yo quiero. Es un sabor particular de orgullo. And some people, some individuals with tremendous privilege and a kind of inner steadiness, they seem to live in the God realm. Hay algunos individuos con un privilegio tremendo y con un cierto como estado interno de que yo no tengo problemas, todo va bien, están en este reino. The problem with the God realm is it's not based on an awareness of our true nature. It's based on outer circumstance. El problema del reino de los dioses es que no es permanente, no está basado en nuestra esencia, está basado en una serie de circunstancias. And sooner or later, those circumstances are going to change. Tarde o temprano, esas condiciones van a cambiar. And the God is going to fall from the God realm. El Dios va a caer del reino de los dioses and so write this down, number two, the God is going to fall into what is called the jealous God realm. El Dios cae en el segundo reino que se llama el reino de los dioses celosos. And the jealous God knows the fruits of the God realm, knows that pleasure, knows that perfect happiness, but somehow they've lost it. Somehow things aren't going according to plan anymore. And so they start to fight to try and get it back. El Dios celoso ha saboreado el placer, el disfrutar del reino del Dios, pero ya la ha perdido. Entonces empieza a luchar para recuperar lo que ha perdido. Right? So in the jealous God realm, there's an energy of strife. There's an energy of battle. There's fighting, there's jealousy, there's competition. But that person has more than me. I got to get what they've got. No, en el reino de los dioses celosos hay competición, hay celos. Esa persona tiene más que yo. Tengo que conseguírmelo. So we see this in the corporate world, the jealous God. I mean, the majority of cutthroat corporate executives, they're all jealous gods. La mayoría en el mundo del business, de los CEOs que son competitivos, son dioses celosos, right? The Donald Trumps of the world, that's a classic jealous god right there, right? Because the god isn't really fighting. The god is just chilling because everything goes his way. Yeah, I'm cool. Everything is good. Yeah, I'm happily married. I got plenty of money. My life is good. I don't have problems. El Dios es más así, relajado, no está luchando. Soy casado con alguien que me gusta, tengo dinero, no tengo problemas, todo va según yo quiero. Tengo mi salud. No? There's not this tension and this strife. The tension and the strife begins in the jealous God realm. The God will always fall at some point. And the God kind of knows this. El Dios siempre va a caer a un cierto punto y lo sabe, right? And this knowledge that the circumstances that he's created are temporary create insecurity. Este saber en lo cual las condiciones que ha creado son temporarias genera inseguridad. So the God lives with a little bit of insecurity in the back of his mind. El Dios vive con un poquito de inseguridad en el fondo de su mente porque sabe que su situación es temporal. So the God falls into the jealous God realm, the second realm, right? And he starts to fight, try and get back what he lost. He fights with others because others are threatening. They might take what he's got. Empieza a luchar con todo el mundo. But there's still a kind of a power and a privilege that characterizes this realm. Hay todavía un sentido de poder y privilegio que caracteriza este reino, right? You're fighting, but you've got the power to fight. Estás luchando, pero tienes el poder y los recursos para luchar. At some point, you fall further. You become bored with, or it doesn't work out to continue reasserting the fight, right? The pleasure of the gods has been lost to you, and you fall definitively into the next realm, the third realm, which is the human realm. A un cierto punto, uno se aburre con la lucha constante del Dios celoso. El sabor de los dioses ya no es tan accesible como antes. It's like life has humbled you so many times. La vida os ha hecho ser humildes tantas veces that you start to let go a little bit and you drop into what's called the human realm. This is the third realm, right? Descendemos al reino del ser humano. Ya nos hartamos un poquito de la lucha. Estamos lejos de ser un Dios. Nos encontramos plenamente en el reino humano, el tercer. And this is a place of mundane comfort. Eso es el lugar de un confort mundano. We no longer have the arrogance of the gods, right? Hemos perdido la arrogancia de los dioses, but we're also not consumed in the suffering of the realms that are coming up. Pero todavía no estamos consumidos en el sufrimiento de los reinos que van a venir ahora, que son más bajos. We're at the midpoint, okay? And this is the ideal place for the separate self. If you're going to create a dream world, this is the ideal dream world from the standpoint of spiritual awakening. Si vais a crear un mundo ilusorio, que es inevitable, el mundo humano, el reino humano es el ideal. Because a God it doesn't have enough sense of suffering to be interested in spiritual awakening. El Dios no tiene un sentido suficiente de sufrimiento para estar interesado en liberación. Right. So, and I've seen this. If someone is too, like, completely disconnected from their suffering, but from a place of privilege, outer or inner, they're not open to the inner life. Si alguien está desconectado de su sufrimiento, pero desde un lugar de privilegio, no están abiertos a la vida espiritual. Similarly, if someone is caught in the jealous God realm, they're so involved with the intensity of their battle that they're also not interested. Like the adrenaline of the fight, right? The adrenaline of the, working at Uber and like the adrenaline of the battle, right? Is so all consuming, you just want more. La adrenalina de la batalla, si trabajas en Uber, te consume tanto que ya no te interesa tampoco en el camino espiritual. Right? And you see people, I mean, those of you who work in the corporate world, you know this, like you have friends who are like addicted to that phenomena, addicted to the battle, addicted to the strife, addicted to the struggle. How can I gain more? How can I outdo my opponent? ¿Conocéis gente así en vuestro mundo? ¿No? Gente que es adicta a la lucha, adicta a siempre acumular más, ¿no? Adicta a esa adrenalina. So once you've worked that out and you've landed in the human realm, you find yourself in a sort of mundane in-between zone. Nos encontramos en una zona mundana entre medio de todo. No hay demasiada arrogancia, no hay demasiado sufrimiento. In the human realm, there is a kind of opening. En el reino humano hay una apertura. There is opening to the inner life, right? We've been humbled. Life has softened us up enough. Okay. And that softening process is really important. We have to have played out certain kinds of bullshit in order to really be open to evolving. Es importante que hemos experimentado con ciertas formas de sufrimiento, con ciertas formas de confusión, para estar abiertos al camino evolutivo. Right? And so that openness is born in the human realm. That initial openness is born in the human realm. Very, very good place to be, you guys. So keep in mind when we're discussing the six realms, what we're discussing are the six styles of imprisonment. None of these realms represents the liberated state. Cuando hablamos de los seis reinos, estamos hablando de los seis sabores de encarcelamiento. Ningún de ellos representa el estado de liberación, right? These are the particular flavors of dream world that we're creating. Wait, Detmar, let me complete this. I'll come back to you. So there we are in the human realm. Things become more kind of kitchen sink level. There's a sort of there's a little bit of simplicity. There's a little bit of openness. There's a little bit of receptivity. We're not miserable, right? There we are in the human realm. But then things become more solid. The sense of stupidity and dullness increases, and we fall from the human realm into the fourth realm, which is called the animal realm. Poquito a poco, Ese sentido de comunidad aumenta, la estupidez aumenta, la densidad aumenta y caemos más en el reino de los animales. And in the animal realm, we're just on our line. We're not looking right, we're not looking left, we're just right? Trotting along, kind of like doing our thing. There's an impenetrability in our self-structure. Cuando estamos en el reino de los animales, no miramos a la derecha, no miramos a la izquierda, estamos troteando, haciendo nuestra cosa por la fuerza de hábito. So this is a place where unconscious habitual patterns, there's a kind of a density or a stupidity in the flavor of our unconscious patterns and the way that they play themselves out. Like people that are over addicted to a kind of a routine. Like we have a neighbor of ours, Sylvia and the guy like in his being, he's terrified of his own mortality, which is really understandable. But he gets out, he's very angry and kind of grumpy, but he gets out every morning and he walks like the he walks, he does his walk and he comes back and he does his chainsaw, right? And then after that, maybe he has his lunch and then he repeats over and over and over again. But there's a kind of like there's no openness and there's no space, right? He's following a line like an animal. No tenemos un vecino que el tío tiene un miedo profundo de su mortalidad, cosa que es comprensible, pero no lo gestiona, simplemente se levanta, se va a caminar en el bosque, no mira a derecha, no mira a izquierda, luego vuelve para utilizar sus herramientas, come quizás, le cuesta decirte hola. ¿No? Porque desde el miedo está aferrándose a su rutina, right? So there's a lot of fear in the animal realm, right? Underneath that stupidity, there's tremendous amount of fear. And so then the poison of ignorance becomes dominant. El veneno de ignorancia domina en el reino de los animales. So here we see like somebody that's been highly conditioned by their culture que kind of lives in the animal realm. Una persona que ha sido profundamente condicionada por su cultura vive muchas veces en el reino del animal. There's an impenetrability. They're so addicted to their conditioning that they're simply not open to another possibility. And another possibility feels like a threat. Están tan adictos a su condicionamiento que no están abiertos a otra posibilidad. Otra posibilidad se convierte en una amenaza. And the animal can be quite hostile towards spirituality sometimes. El animal puede ser incluso hostil en relación con la espiritualidad porque la espiritualidad es una amenaza a su densidad. Right? Spirituality becomes a threat to their density, right? A threat to their marriage and solidification, marriage with and solidification of their conceptual framework, their conditioning. Don't threaten my conditioning. Don't tell me I'm anything more than a mother, anything more than a partner, right? I have to be that. That's my identity. And I'm going to stay with that no matter what, right? Anything that forces me to open to something else, something beyond my identity is a threat, so I have to ward it off, right? That's the animal mind. Estoy tan identificado con ser madre, ¿no? Con ser pareja, no me hables de espiritualidad, es una amenaza. No soy más de eso. A mí no me importa de la espiritualidad. ¿De qué me estás hablando? There's a kind of like a defensiveness that the animal develops in maintaining his or her identity structure. Hay una energía defensiva que uno genera para mantener su condicionamiento, su identidad, right? Ignorance is the primary poison at work in the animal realm. But then that stops working out. The poor animal, he's not happy actually being an animal. Eso a un cierto punto no funciona. El pobre animal no está feliz de ser un animal, right? It's not freeing him from his suffering. And so he falls further down into the realm, write this down, number 5, of the hungry ghost, the preta. And now these are the last two realms that we're going to discuss. These are the places of real suffering. So people that are living in these realms, right? And the people actually, they're in, individuals and us, we inhabit the full range of the realms. And once we reach the lower realms, the animal, the hungry ghosts, and what's the final one, the hell realm, where the suffering really, really starts to accumulate. Okay. So the image of a hungry ghost, right? It's also called a preta, preta, Preta. It's a Sanskrit word. It's of a being with a huge mouth and a really skinny neck and a distended belly, like the pictures of children who are starving in Africa, okay? So la imagen de la fantasma con hambre es la quinta reino. La imagen es de una boca muy grande, un cuello muy ancho y una barriga distendida, como los niños en África, ¿vale? And in a hungry ghost realm, we're really trying to consume everything around us. We're trying to fill our emptiness. En el reino de la fantasma con hambre, estamos intentando consumir lo más posible para llenar este vacío. But because our neck is skinny, doesn't matter how delicious the food is, it never actually gets in to nourish us. Por el hecho de que el cuello es tan ancho, lo que estamos consumiendo jamás llega a nutrirnos. So the hungry ghost is always hungry. La fantasma con hambre siempre tiene hambre and is always trying to consume more and more and more, but never gets satisfaction. Siempre está intentando consumir más y más, pero nunca consigue la satisfacción. So obvious forms of the hungry ghost are like a heroin addict. You've seen heroin addicts in Barcelona. Hemos visto en Barcelona adictos a la heroína, una cultura fuerte de heroína. And they have a certain appearance like they're completely emaciated, they're completely unhealthy, and they're always trying to get their fix. It's a very, very unimaginably painful realm to inhabit. Es un reino extremadamente doloroso donde vivir. Las adictas a heroína son ejemplos muy obvios. Su apariencia, su hambre constante para la droga. But then there are more subtle forms of the hungry ghost, right? The hungry ghost is always like in the New Age circle, a hungry ghost manifestation is always needing to do different therapies, always needing to do different retreats, different workshops, do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but none of it really gets in sufficiently. En el contexto de la nueva edad, la tendencia del fantasma con hambre es la necesidad de siempre hacer terapias diferentes, retiros diferentes, pero sin realmente implicarse completamente con un camino. Right? This kind of insatiable quality, insatiability, dissatisfaction. A lot of what drives spiritual materialism is the feeling of the hungry ghost. Gran parte de lo que empuje el materialismo espiritual es el hambre del fantasma con hambre. Right? Instead of meeting our emptiness directly, we're constantly trying to consume something, but we're not actually dealing with it. En lugar de encontrar de forma directa ese sentido de vacío, estamos constantemente intentando consumir algo. Right? And so our whole economic model is driven by trying to make people feel like hungry ghosts so that they consume more. ¿Vale? Nuestro modelo económico, la fuerza principal es de hacer a la gente sentir como fantasmas con hambre para que consumen más. This addiction to consumption is a hungry ghost phenomenon. And if you've ever gone into a supermarket in the United States, and I'm not talking about a health food store, I'm talking about like a conventional supermarket, the music that's played, they've studied this, right? Psychologists have developed this to fuck with people. The music that they play is designed to evoke feelings of emptiness within the shopper so that they consume more. Yes, these are strategies that are created in order to drive consumption. Por ejemplo, en los Estados Unidos, en supermercados típicos, psicólogos han estudiado ese fenómeno y suenan música que despierten sentimientos de vacío en los consumidores para que consumen más, right? And a lot of what if you're a business person, you know, you're taught that you have to generate the demand so that you can then give the supply, right? You have to make people want something that you've got. You have to manipulate people. You have to convince them into thinking that they need what you've got, right? This is a large part of what drives our market. And this is why we're so messed up, is because we are over consuming and we're under feeling the emptiness inside of us. Es por eso que estamos tan jodidos, porque hay una hiperconsumación, pero no estamos conectando directamente con nuestro propio vacío, right? Because that emptiness is too painful to meet. People don't want to deal with it. Este vacío que tenemos, jolín, es doloroso y la gente no lo quiere sentir. But the more they consume, the worse they feel because what they consume does not fix the emptiness. Más que consumen, peor que se sienten, porque lo que consumen no suaviza el vacío. The hungry ghost is never satisfied. Fantasma con hambre jamás está satisfecho. And then at that point, what happens? The hungry ghost, he's so frustrated. He's tried everything to fill his emptiness. Nothing is working. He's empty, he's hungry, he's dissatisfied. So then what? He falls down to the lowest realm, which is called the hell realm. El fantasma con hambre ha intentado todo lo posible para llenar su vacío. Nada ha funcionado y cae al reino más, donde hay más sufrimiento que es el reino de infierno. Okay. And what characterizes the hell realm is you become angry. You become angry with yourself. You become angry with existence. You attack others. You attack yourself because you feel so deeply frustrated about your own suffering that nothing is left to you except simply to play out your aggression. In the reino del infierno estás enfadado contigo mismo, enfadado con la vida, las cosas no han ido como tú quieres. Tus intentos muchos de llenar el vacío no han funcionado, entonces lo que te queda es simplemente descargar tu agresividad en relación contigo, en relación con el mundo. And this is the realm of the deepest suffering, okay? The hell realm. And we know everyone here has been in all of the realms. I want to be very clear about that. Todos aquí hemos estado en todos los reinos en un cierto momento, right? And we know people who inhabit all of those realms. Conocemos a gente que vive en todos esos reinos. However, there is usually one realm that we prefer. No obstante, normalmente hay un reino que preferimos. There's one realm that we tend to reconstruct, or one or two realms that we tend to reconstruct. Hay uno o dos reinos que tenemos la tendencia a reconstruir. And those realms are part of our identity, right? Esos reinos son gran parte de nuestra identidad. And we can bounce back and forth between different of the realms. Podemos pasar de un reino a otro, right? Maybe we're in the God realm. Yeah, everything is going my way. And then that doesn't work out and we fall straight into the animal realm. Well, I can't really feel anything. Can't feel myself. I can't feel my suffering. Can't feel what's going on out there. I can't really feel what's going on in here, right? We fall from the privilege of the God realm into the stupidity of the animal realm, right? Maybe our consciousness is some mixture of those two realms. Quizás caemos del privilegio del reino de los dioses a la estupidez del reino de los animales. No siento mucho, no siento mí mismo, no siento el otro, right? It's sort of the animal realm with a bit of a God realm flavor thrown in. Es el reino de los animales con un poquito de reino de los dioses añadido, right? So our fantasy worlds, our dream worlds are a mixture of these six realms, okay? Lo que hemos generado en la quinta skanda es una mezcla de esos seis reinos. And so when we're in that place of frustration, when we're just angry, right? We're angry with our world, we're angry with ourselves, we're just angry, we're in the hell realm. Estamos en el infierno cuando estamos en ese estado, enfadados con nosotros mismos, enfadados con el mundo. Estamos en el infierno, ¿eh? When we're up in this sort of arrogant privilege of like everything is going my way, we're in the God realm. When we're in strife, we have power, there's competition, we're in the jealous God realm. When we just shut down and we don't really want to feel or see, we're in the animal realm. When we're consuming to try and fill our emptiness, which never quite gets filled, right? That emotional eating, that's a hungry ghost realm phenomena, right? More chocolate, more sugar, more caffeine, right? Hungry ghost. Cuando estamos en el infierno, luchando, es una forma de dolor, luego la arrogancia de los dioses, la fantasma con hambre consumiendo de forma emocional, comida, por ejemplo, nada funciona. And so this is what's meant by samsara, because we're constantly cycling through these different realms. Eso es lo que significa samsara, porque estamos dando vueltas constantes en esos reinos. And a lot of people believe that the point of spirituality is to get to the God realm. This is a very, very big form of misunderstanding. Mucha gente crea que el punto de la espiritualidad es de recrear el reino de los dioses, right? That's why spiritual materialism sells. That's how you're seduced, because ostensibly you're offered a pathway to return to the total bliss of the gods. Estáis vendidos, ¿no? La mentira de la posibilidad de una vuelta al placer de los dioses. And a lot of people that come to the path are looking for that. Mucha gente que entra al camino está buscando justamente eso. And that's why those kinds of people do not stick around. Es por eso que ese tipo de persona no permanece en el camino. Because sooner or later, they're going to experience the frustration of no, spirituality is not going to take you to the God realm. It's gonna lead you to become aware of yourself. That's sobering. That's hard. And to gradually disidentify with what you've constructed, which is also hard. Okay. El auténtico camino espiritual no va a reconstruir el placer de los dioses, sino os va a ayudar a quitar las capas de identidad, pero ese proceso es incómodo. So I told you that our intensive was not going to be so sexy. Os he dicho que nuestro intensivo no iba a ser tan sexy. But it's absolutely necessary, you guys, that we see through the workings of the false self. Es absolutamente necesario que penetramos con claridad el funcionamiento del yo falso so that we don't use our spiritual practice as a way of reinforcing it, para que no utilizamos el camino espiritual para fortalecer la ignorancia. We have to acknowledge where we are in order to become free. Tenemos que reconocer honestamente, con compasión, dónde estamos para poder liberarnos.